Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I would say good morning, America, but just good morning. We're here on the way forward with myself, Dr. Curtis Lewis. I am happy it is 2024. I would say 2024 has started off very interesting. We won't get into all that today, but there's some interesting things that's been happening in 2024. But you know, I'm in Detroit. I'm in the D, and so I got to give a shout out to the Detroit Lions. Woo woo! Like, yay! I know that sounded kind of dry, but Detroit is my second home. I will never root for the Lions. I don't want to root against them either, right? I'm from Chicago, but Detroit's my second home. So always Bears first. But good luck tomorrow. The city is on fire right now. Well, not on fire. Got the fire in the background, but they're not on fire. They are super excited. The city is buzzing. And so I love it. I love the energy. Hope we can keep that energy going even after all this is over. So Anyway, just want to say that I gotta say that, just, I gotta be respectful, and I gotta get a shout out to the Lions. All right, so today we got a full 30 minutes of talk with some wonderful, wonderful Black women. And there's been a lot on my mind lately the last couple of weeks as it relates to Black women in leadership. And I'm always constantly thinking about, schools and the transformation of schools. So we're going to get to talking about that a little bit today. Please, for those who are joining us, comment. You never know, we might slide you on. You just never know. You might just get on the show. So feel free to chime in, throw your 25 cents into the discussion as we're talking about these various topics. One thing I want to just really briefly mention before I bring on our first guest, it has been very, 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 very cold. Today's actually pretty warm, but it's been really, really cold across the country, but particularly in Detroit. The last couple of weeks, been snow and cold and ice, and then it's raining. So the weather's been all over the place. And so there's been a lot recently, a lot of school closings. I would say 2 weeks ago, I think we had Martin Luther King Day off already. And then I think the rest of the week was almost off except one day. And then last week, some days off. So there's been some interruptions in the daily schedule for schools in the Detroit area. So, I happen to have been just perusing through Facebook. And, people, been talking about the snow days and blah, blah, blah. And some of the things that's been popping in my head, and I know I've been an educator, I've been in this business for a very long time. And I was always hyped when there were snow days. Like, I get hyped. Like, it's a snow day. It's always good to get like an unexpected day off. However, what I started to think about as I was seeing people being super excited about these days off. And I was like, dang, people like, what's going on with, like, we get one snow day is cool, but like 3 snow days, and people like, yes, let's do the whole week. And I'm like, damn, people want to go to work. But I know, there's a lot tied up into that. So I was on Facebook yesterday, and our first guest, Silver, had mentioned some stuff that caught my attention. And I was like, oh, now there we go. Because see, people could just talk, but I like people who like get to the root of the issue. And so she brought some stuff on my Facebook. So I was like, man, you should hop on the show today. And she agreed to do that. So we're going to bring Silver more on first. Good morning, Silver.
Good morning. And it was a little disrespectful. You kind of try to cover up.
Was I?
Oh. Yeah, that was not the energy we needed.
That was not the energy. Okay, let me do it. Go Lions. But they be like, go Lions. Is that better?
We going better. Like that's what they came with. We going
Look, man, I told people, I said I used to go to more Lions games than the people in Detroit. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation before they got good. But anyway, no, I got mad love for Detroit. And so I'm, just the sports team I'm just not gonna get with, because we're rivals. Like Chicago sports, Detroit, we're in the same divisions. The Pistons, the Bulls, let's not, I ain't gonna front. I'm loyal to my sports teams. I'm loyal to the city of Detroit as well. Okay, so anything else Detroit, I'm down. Just not the sports team. All right. So anyway, we ain't here to talk about that. But thank you for calling me out for that. I appreciate that. Just like a true Detroiter. Y'all been calling people out. Y'all called Stephen A. Smith out. I don't know what he was going with that conversation. Did you hear about that?
I heard that he got called out, but I didn't listen to it.
Oh, yeah. He went there for a minute and he covered it up, but y'all got on him. Look, can nobody talk about Detroit but people from Detroit?
That's what I think.
Let's be very clear. Be very clear about that, right?
That's
so y'all got them together.
Time guy come in and do that anyway. But that's another topic.
Oh, I forgot y'all. Wait, tell me a little bit about prime time. Tell me about this guy, because I like y'all. It's been hot on social media too. What's up with that guy?
Officially, he's doing one of the new influencer food critics that go around to our restaurant, but he putting a little sauce on saying how horrible things are. Yeah, so like he might get some good reviews, but I think that everything is so bad outweighs anything is good reviews.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I heard people telling him it's time to go. Y'all putting them out the city. But I'm gonna look into this guy and see what's going on. This food critic stuff. You know, I got a couple of friends I know who are chefs, and I think it's cool. We should hold people to high expectations. Period. Like we should hold our restaurants. We should hold our schools, which we don't do that, but we'll talk about that in a minute. We should hold hospitals, all that good stuff to expectations. But I know a lot of chefs that are, they're entrepreneurs. They're starting their business out, and who I got mad love for. And everybody taste buds are different, right? So you may like some, and people like, oh, this is real good. And I'll be like, no, it ain't. Right. And so, it's always somebody's opinion, but I don't, as long as it's healthy criticism and it's not preventing folks, it's not hurting people's business. And we should call people out. Like, people should be better. And that's, handling business, customer service it's very important. I shouldn't wait 45 minutes for a burger. Right. But we should be very intentional, because I feel like black people are so quick to like beat each other up. But that's a whole other conversation. We'll talk about that another day. We'll talk about that. All right, so let's get. I know, because I got you. Your energy already good. We'll start talking about stuff. It'll be 2 hours later. So let's stay focused. So I got on your post yesterday. First of all, I want you to just share a little bit about, because you do a lot. You ain't just I work here, but you do a lot of things. So let the folks know who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Silver. I work my regular day job as an instructional coach for university prep schools, particularly university prep art and design and humanities. So working with ELA and social studies teachers. Outside of that, I have a small business classroom clapback in which I work on culturally responsive curriculum development, as well as training and development for teachers. And then with my family, have a nonprofit organization, STM2 Project Education, where we work heavily in Detroit to build our community. So whether that is providing service for tutoring to our community, feeding our communities of food that fill our body and not harm our body. But whatever we can do best to build our corner of Detroit. That's the synopsis.
So one, I want to say this, like, shout out to your family, the work that y'all are doing. People do a lot of talking about the work, and y'all are doing the work. I am super impressed. I think it's dope. And I want to make sure we, as an organization, BMEA, we support you guys this year. So we'll be talking, but the work you guys are doing is super dope. And so continue the good work. And also I want to mention too, the curriculum that you create. I mean, you could take a topic, something just happened yesterday, and you would create a whole lesson on it. Right, in a matter of 45 minutes, I feel like it just happened, and I want to highlight that, because I think that's, first of all, I think that's dope, and you are brilliant, which is why I love having you on anything that we do BMEA, because you've been down and you do the work, and I'm about people who doing the work. But what's important is we always talk about our curriculum is not culturally responsive. And what you do, right? We got a sister in the city of Detroit that's doing this work. She should be sitting at home writing curriculum for all of our schools at this point, right? And so I think it's super important to highlight the work that you're doing as far as the curriculum goes, because I'm seeing you post your lessons. I'm like, oh, that's dope, right? And so anybody listening, principals, teachers, anything, reach out to Silver. She's doing great work as far as the curriculum, because I'm looking at some of the curriculum that we use. It's not intended to be culturally responsive, and we still whatever. Pause. All right. Anyway, so let's talk about the weather. The weather's been rough and these snow days. So you mentioned something on Facebook in response to the snow days, really getting at the root. So I want you to share for the audience what you shared, and then we'll start the conversation from there.
Yeah, I think the post essentially said snow days are not a cure for burnout. System changes are. So that was the gist of the post. Like, just because I got a day off doesn't mean like you're so rejuvenated. Everything is great now. Yeah. I'm so ready to do this work. Like, I don't care how many snow days, how many breaks, how many professional development days, federal holidays. Like, those aren't alone enough to get teachers, educators to the place where burnout is no longer a thing for them.
So talk to me a little bit about teacher burnout. Like, what do you, when you talk about, for those who may not be teachers, for those who may not be aware of this terminology, what do you mean when you say teacher burnout? And dig in. Your job is safe. Ain't nobody gonna mess with you. So dig in. I know you don't care anyway. Dig into talking about what you mean by teacher burnout and give us some of the root causes for this burnout.
So I will say that I would expand it to educator burnout. I think it's easy a lot of time for us to think that teachers are burnt out, and then when you leave the classroom, life is good. But somebody who is not in the classroom and the coaching role, like there is burnout for educators, period. Whether you are a coach, whether you are a dean, whether you're principal, like so there is burnout for educators, period. And when we get to the burnout stage, it's not just that it's just regular old stress. Like you get into a place where there's a level of exhaustion that is impacting you mentally, emotionally, physically, right? Your body is showing you that you're kind of at the end of your rope. And that can look like a lot of different ways. Like I've had conversations with teachers who have told me that they didn't use the word I'm burnt out, but they were describing a level of burnt out by saying like, I am struggling to get out of bed in the morning. Like I finally actually got up and showered this morning, like to that level that they were moving into a place of actual depression because of the weight that they were carrying with their particular job. And so there are a lot of different reasons for that. We would know on the baseline, workloads for educators is high, it's heavy. I think if we contextualize it a little bigger, and this is my theory, I ain't did no research, I ain't read no book.
It's all good. It's all good.
But I think that right now in education, we are in a place in which teaching is not looked at as a profession anymore. It's a game that anybody can get in. The requirements to be teachers are constantly lowering. Every day, new things are being passed. So we're in a position now where a lot of those that are entering to the classrooms are in positions where low level of training, low level of preparation, low level of development, and we're asking them to do hard work without being prepared to do it and think it's not going to somehow impact their wellness when they're carrying this load that is heavy for even those that are the most prepared to come into this place. So there's going to be a level, and with teachers, 50% of teachers quitting within their first 5 years. Those that are burnt out have not been doing it a long time. We're talking about burnout for people that just got into it. And so I think a lot of that is deal with the fact that you are entering into a hard job that's already at risk for some burnout, but you're entering into it without even the tools to keep you afloat and think that I'm just going to be okay in it. So that's why I said it's more of a systematic how we even got to this issue. We didn't set people up to be well in the first place.
No, that's good. So you mentioned a couple of things, and one, y'all gonna see me wiping my face because I'm sitting here next to this fireplace trying to make it look cute, but I'm hot. So my bad. I'm like over here burning up. But look, you mentioned something really, really important that I think we are sort of brushing over. So we have this teacher shortage, and we knew this was coming for a long time. And we're putting some Band-Aids, a few Band-Aids on this shortage. And I just had a conversation with some folks at Michigan State not too long ago around this idea of teaching as a profession. And to talk about like when I watch on the news or when I see and I read how we're going about getting people in the classroom, and I get the fact that we need somebody, a human, to be in front of these kids. But people don't understand how dangerous that is, how unacceptable that is to just literally getting like, you want to come teach? Come on. And I always ask this question. Would you go have a doctor or a dentist or whomever off the street just come in and operate on you? Or would you have them, if you're going even to the eye doctor, like, would you have someone do anything to your body that you just met off the street? I mean, they just came off the street and they did a couple of classes and they're learning how to do this. And then they're going to put them in front of you and tell them, we about to do the surgery. We about to do a knee replacement. We won't do that, right? In most, we won't even get in the car with somebody who actually learning. If somebody is Uber drive up and say, hey, I'm just learning how to drive. I got my permit. I ain't got my license yet, but I'm learning how to drive. Will we get in that car with them? Probably not. And so for whatever reason, we are putting a bunch of band-aids on this issue and just getting folks off the street, literally, to become teachers is absolutely unacceptable. But I know I know people like, well, we need somebody. I get it. I've been in administrative roles. I get that we need bodies. But that is a bigger problem. But if we don't begin to tackle that problem, our educational system has already been borderline trash for a while, forever, for a minute. And to continue to go this route is not about to solve the problem. Right. So I want you to speak to that. Like, I know, it is sort of a hot topic because I get the desire or the need that we have. But what do you think are some strategies or some things that we can do to, like, okay, how do we put quality people in front of our kids? But also, how do we also deal with the root issue? Because I'm gonna be honest, my son ain't like, if my son got a sub, he's not gonna be in that classroom. I'm gonna figure it out, but I have the means to figure it out, right? So jump on that question.
Yeah, and so I will say a part of, like, even the teacher preparation issue is not just from the fact that people are subs or alternatives. Like, we see, as an instructional coach, I've seen some people come out of teacher college ed programs, and when they come into the classroom, they like, what do you mean a lesson plan?
Agreed.
Like, so it's still in general. People aren't ready when they come in, and the schools that have the highest needs tend to be also the schools that have the most amount of subs, the least access to already strong teachers. So I do think when it comes to how we address student deficiencies, we try our best to pull out all of the stops. We don't have some learning specialists. We're going to have some parapros. We got math interventionists. We got a reading interventionist. We got Edgenuity. We got IXL. Like, we pulling out all of the programs. We got tutoring. We do all of these things because we know that students have gaps and we need to fill. What does that look like? The fact that we know we have teacher learning gaps. Like, how are we strategically, until we address the bigger systematic issues that are addressed top down, like give schools money so they can pay teachers. Like, so in our locus of control as schools and districts, how are we going all in to teacher development in a new type of way? Is it regular, sustained, and continuous professional development that we are buying into teachers? Do we? Because if you only got a coach, that's one stream of development to fix a whole bigger problem. What are all of the other different ways in which we are trying to fill the gaps in the issues I shouldn't say issues, I don't want to, but the needs that we have for learning for teachers? And then what does our recruitment look like for finding teachers so that we don't have to have 50, 60, 70, 80% subs in our building? What do we look like in doing the recruiting and even developing pipelines to, before it is that I've graduated and I'm doing my student teaching? What does the pipeline look like to be able to develop teachers you got to go to school for a long time to be a doctor. That's a lot of years of development before we get there. What is the lot of years of development we can provide to teachers before they get into the classroom?
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. And I appreciate you shouting out, because this is, that's for another day, because you and I can sit here and talk about a lot of stuff. But, this whole idea of people actually going to do their 4-year of traditional training in traditional College of Ed's teacher training programs and still come out and not be ready. That is real. I teach at Michigan State, and people just even our approach to how we even train teachers, right? So this is not just a K-12 issue. It is an entire educational system issue for sure. So, good point. Thank you for calling it out. So my last question, and I'm gonna let you go. We're gonna have you back. We're gonna have you back because we know we got a lot to talk about. We're gonna talk about clap back at one day. One day we're gonna talk about that. We also talk about solutions, because I want to call out the problems, but I also want to be very clear about what are some solutions, because I think people like yourself have solutions. How do we get people like you at the table, right, where solutions are being created, right? The people who know what they're talking about. That's the goal, right? And that's the goal of BME. And one of the things you mentioned was sort of this pipeline. Shout out to BME, shout out to my work. We creating a pipeline. Been doing it for a while. We focus on the boys, but we're gonna get with the girls at some point too, soon. But what's super important in what you said was around how do we create this pipeline of people who are interested in going into teaching, right? You think about this. If you're a student, I asked my fellows, principal fellows and teachers fellows over the last 2 weeks, I asked them this question. What are you doing that would encourage or motivate or inspire a student to want to become a teacher? Right? I asked them that question because people, when I talk to my students at Michigan State, they share with me that they all want to go into teaching because their parents was in teaching, or they had a teacher that they loved so much that they was like, man, I want to do that. I want to be her. And 90-something% of them are white women. And it's been like that for years. So I make this very clear. That pipeline is still white for sure. Be very, very clear about that. And so one of the things I start to think about is like, what image are we giving our students around what this profession could be and what it looks like? And if we have a role in that, like our current educators have a role in inspiring other people to do our work, or are we the ones saying, don't do this, go do something else, go do something else? Like, so what role do we play in that, right? And B, how do we inspire folks in our, the younger generation to go into this profession?
Well, I think one thing is we've lost the neighborhood school, the community schooling with a lot of reasons. It's a whole conversation, right? Yeah. But like, what does it look like for us to position our school as a part of a community so you have more access to relationships with the people across the street, down around the corner, and that gives you that, like, I want to be a teacher because this person is inspiring me, and I'm not just interacting with them on this day. I'm bringing in the parents of my students into the school, and they're doing programs and they're co-teaching. Like, right, how are we making the school, particularly for Black students, a communal space that engages in place-based education, engages their community, and that's so it allows you to have more people that you are seeing, that it doesn't feel like I leave myself at home and then I go to school. For both students and teachers, because there's nothing about that says I want to be in part of this. This is for me. So for those that we do have Black educators, so I appreciate even the work that BMEA is doing, because we need spaces that support Black educators, because they're going to bring in their Black people. That's going to bring in other Black people, and because Black kids deserve to see themselves as genius, because their teachers is the ones that look like them. So creating that community it's not going to be a pipeline without no community. Who's going to be in the pipeline? You got to have
Silver Moore. You are, you're a friend. Actually, I want you to stay in the room. I'm gonna put you backstage because I think I'm gonna bring you on once me and DJ get going a little bit, because I think you may have some thoughts about this topic as well. So I want to get your 2 cents as me and DJ get going. So don't go nowhere. Stay close, because I might be sliding you back in soon. But we'll be outside of that. We will be in touch as well. One, I want to support the work that your family is doing in any way we can, and also continue just to support and highlight the work you're doing, because as an organization, we're going to be looking into like supporting curriculum, and there's no one I want to go to first but you, to make sure that we're supporting the work that you're doing as we're working in these schools across the country. Okay, appreciate the conversation. Stay tuned though. I'm gonna slide you back in. Appreciate you. All right, y'all, good conversation. Silver, she's dope, super dope. So next up, we have DJ, who's been a mentee of mine for as long as she's been alive. And she is doing great things. I let her talk about herself, but I want to, I think we're gonna switch gears a little bit and talk about women in leadership, because, and I'll share this in a minute. So let's bring DJ on first, and then I'll share a little bit. What's up, DJ?
Hey, Doc, how are you?
What's up, Geneva Cherif?
Staying warm. I'm good.
You're staying warm. It's not that cold out. You said what?
Heard you were warm. You have a hoodie on and you're.
Oh, well, one though, this fireplace is right next to me and it is like burning the back of my arm right now. But anyway, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Tell the people before we jump into this conversation, because I couldn't think of too many people to talk about this with but you, because you're gonna bring the fire in. You're gonna be unapologetic about what you got to say, because that's just who you are. But talk about first a little bit about who you are, all the great things that you're doing in the city of Detroit and across the country. Can you share a little bit about that, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Yeah, DJ Cherif, Chief Academic Officer at University Prep School, one of the things that I do. Also a consultant. I'm an educator of Black children. I am a Black woman unapologetically, and I am, trying to figure out how do we give our kids the very best and also give our Black leaders specifically the very best as well.
So, okay, now look, DJ, one, you are very clear unapologetically what you're all Black on, Black.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into this topic though, I want to share like why sort of this has been on top of my mind. So a couple of weeks ago, had a friend of mine, you called her Bonnie, but Dr. Bailey, she was a vice president for student affairs at Lincoln University, HBCU in Missouri. And I met her when I was an undergrad, so somewhere in the 90s. Don't be judging me. Somewhere in the 90s. And she was a graduate student then. So she's like my graduate student advisor. I used to do summer programming with some of the students at Michigan State. And she was my graduate student advisor. So we got to know each other pretty well during that experience. And with one of the sweetest humans I know. And I remember like the mark she left on me as an undergraduate student. I was like, man, grad school. Like even seriously in undergrad, I was like, what's grad school? Like what's you doing? What is grad school? What is that like? And I remember talking to her about those things, but she was an extreme sweetheart, very dedicated to women in leadership. And tragically though, she killed herself on June 8th due to the bullying, harassment of the folks, her boss at Lincoln University. And so that really did something that bothered me, but it also highlighted the issues that Black women often face in leadership positions. So I'm gonna pause us here. We're gonna do a little clip, show a little clip about the situation that I just discussed.
The Lincoln University community is reeling after the death of Antoinette Candia-Bailey, the vice president of student affairs and a mentor on campus.
If you knew her, you loved her, basically.
But since then, there has been an outcry from students and alumni to have Lincoln's current president, John Mosley, removed.
I've said early on in the administration that Dr. Mosley was a novice. And he's demonstrated his lack of skill and leadership in this capacity.
Sherman Bonds, the Lincoln University National Alumni President, sent a letter to the Board of Curators following an email.
She wrote a manifesto, a letter to Dr. Mosley, giving directions toward improvement in his leadership.
According to Bonds, the email alleges Mosley harassed and bullied Candia-Bailey. In an interview with NBC News, Candia-Bailey's mother and husband say she had a strained relationship with Mosley and was fired on January 3rd.
Between 5 days, her level of despair was beyond hope, and she took her life.
In a press release, the university says it values mental health, saying, quote, "As a board, we are committed to make certain the mental health of Lincoln University employees is a priority and that every employee is always treated with dignity and respect." But students like Zoe want more from the university.
I do look forward to seeing the resignation or firing of Dr. Mosley. I just feel like at this point we're under poor leadership.
And says it goes further than just Mosley.
This is unprecedented in terms of what we expect from the Board of Curators. We expect compassion, we expect resolve, and we expect immediate action, and we don't have that.
Eliola Liberté, KMU8 News, Jefferson City.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
All right. So, man, that's tough. It's tough to even to watch that and just knowing the person. So I'll continue to do my part in fighting for her. So with that, I want you to talk a little bit about, one, get your reaction to that, but two, think about, so what are some of the barriers that you face or that you see other Black women face in leadership?
I think some of the biggest, first of all, the situation is heartbreaking, and it's a real reality across the country. But I think some of the biggest challenges is that we have to face like racism and sexism at the same time, right? Always at the same time. Our authority is being undermined, but you put us in the top positions, right? We either are too soft or too aggressive. We either have to play politics all the time. Politics exists everywhere, but we always have to play this dance. And then it's like we get scared to say, like, I said what I said because I'm in the position, I am responsible if all of this burns down, and yet you are questioning me. So when I tell you, like, this is what it is, and like I'm doubling down, like 10 toes down in whatever I said, it's like, ooh, you might not be up for a promotion because like you don't, people are afraid of you, right? And I think it creates a very unsafe environment. And then you're hired as the expert, but then you are treated as novice by people who know nothing about what you do, right? These are individuals who are typically white. They're typically not educators, and they want to question everything that you do as if you don't know what you're doing. So, they put you in the position, but they also sabotage you every step of the way, whether consciously.
So you said a lot. You said a lot there. And I think what I want to sort of follow up with you is to think about, like, what do you think are some things? One, so let's go back for a minute. Let's connect this to to the clip I just showed you. How do you think that, like, continue to be questioned, continue to be put in positions of power, but then to be questioned, right? I mean, we got the whole situation that happened with the president at Harvard, right? And that's why, I'm always hesitant, like, I want to celebrate. First of all, the fact that we still celebrating some of these things in 2023, 2024 is problematic, right? The first Black woman to be, like, that's crazy. But when I saw that happen months ago, when I was like, when they announced that she had the job, I was like, right? And the fact that she resigned, the fact that there have been a number of women, and I work with women in higher ed and other places, but I personally, let me say something, people are so bold now, they'll say stuff in meetings with you in there. Right, about somebody else, but it's people are so bold now. And so the question I ask for you to think about, like, what do you think are the necessary steps that schools can take or institutions can take to make this environment more inclusive for Black women?
Yeah, I think it's like both and, right? One, audacity is always at an all-time high, always. But I think it's a both and. I think that institutions have a role, but we as Black women have a role too, right? It's no longer cute to be the first. It's not a badge of honor. Like, let's stop thinking that, like, we've made it and we're at the mountaintop. Like, I think we gotta, like, tell organizations, like, if you are hiring me, you're hiring me 100 who I am, everything that I come with. Are you going to sign your name at the dotted line, right? Not like position ourselves in these interviews to get the job, because then you always have to try to keep the job. And I know you've known me since I was 21. I am not afraid to get fired. I'm employable. I am not tripping at all. So if you have a problem, like, dismiss me and do what you need to do, because I have the skills and the talents to find a job somewhere else. Like, that's the first thing. Then the institutions, you have to call them, like, out for the things that they're doing. I remember being in a space that's the highest ranking person around the table. It is my retreat, and being, like, connected to an animal and being, like, connected as being very aggressive as the highest ranking person in the table. And I was like, what am I gonna say? Because right now what I want to say is something so crazy that, like, everyone is gonna feel, like, uncomfortable. But what I do know is that institutions need to hire more Black women. That's the first thing, because what saved me in that moment where I was humiliated and I didn't know what to do in the education system was that 2 Black women called me, senior leaders in the organization called me and said, like, I'm sorry that you had to experience that. I saw you shaking. I think you wanted to cry. And I'm going to call that man and tell him, like, it is unacceptable for what he did and what he said, right? And so being protected by Black women is particularly important, but calling for, like, not DEI in these statements to, like, be on the wall, but actually, like, live it out. System structures and policies need to exist. And when they're breached, you're holding them accountable. You might be ousted, you might get fired, but they all at least know, like, don't you ever play with me again, right? And I think, like, that comes at a risk, and, like, everybody's not willing to take that risk, but I think it's important.
You know, you said something, and you've been saying this for a long time since I met you in the classroom. And even when we worked together, I ain't scared to get fired. I love that. I know you can fire me, yeah, and I talked about it every day. No, this swear. But you say, I appreciate that statement, because I think part of the issues, I think people are scared to get fired. Mm-hmm. And I know people have worked hard to get to these positions, but if we walk around on eggshells and walk around, and that's for, you know, all of us, and particularly women, and I get, it's easy for me to say that because I've always had this energy about me that fire me. I don't care, because what you're not going to do and what I'm not going to do is go against my values and who I am as a person. I'm not selling my soul for nobody, for no organization, for nobody, right? So when we think about that, and you talked about that situation, which it just hurts every time I hear this mess. What role do you think men play in supporting Black women in leadership positions?
Yeah. Black, like, is it Black men or just men in general? Like,
well, we're gonna talk about Black men. You can take that, everybody. I'm talking about Black men, but we can talk about men in general, but Black men.
I think Black men have a responsibility to make sure that they protect us in the space, right? I mean, there's little things that are said, and sometimes it can be like, it could be perceived as cute and funny, but like, well, she got an attitude problem. Oh, you doing too much. You know what I'm saying? Or your team too much, right? Like Dr. Lewis, you can stand and come in a meeting, and sometimes you majority of times, I've rarely seen you get questioned, right? Because you're a Black man and you come with this, like, innate positional power and authority. Anything other than that you'll be viewed as, like, you are truly not a leader. When I come into the space with that same energy, I need you to respect it and not question it, right? I don't need you to say that I'm trying to emulate a man or I'm trying to be masculine. I'm trying to get things done. So are you going to follow me, or are you going to be in opposition? And I think that sometimes, like, that occurs with Black men, because, like, in this space of work, I'm not your wife. I'm not your sister. I'm not your mother. In instances, I might be your boss. I might be your counterpart. I might be your thought partner. Or at this space, I might be the expert. So listen to me and, like, be okay moving out of the way and let me do my thing. And you're still bro at the same time.
Hey, look. Hey, I know, look, because I know you. Hey, look, I one, you on point, right? One, you're on point. Two, I would add to that, because I think everything you said is absolutely correct. And I do know, as a man walking to a space, as a Black man walking to a space, that is not different than a Black woman walking to a space. So I've always felt obligated to make sure that I'm supportive and also holding Black women. And you know that you're an example of that, and you can speak to that. So I ain't just be talking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's who I've always been. But to think about this issue, and I know it has to have an impact on folks' mental and emotional health. What do you think are some strategies and ways in which we can sort of, knowing that, like, we're not going to change this overnight, but one, we got to be aggressive about this. Like, we all have to be aggressive about this. So as we're being aggressive and finding ways to support each other, what do you think institutions can do to support the mental and emotional health and prioritize that for Black women in these particular roles?
Yeah.
Like, what would that look like?
I think just resources, like, therapy has been life-changing, and not being embarrassed that, like, I need therapy, because some of the things that I want to flip over, like, will put me in a bad position, right? Yeah. But I also think mental health. I hate that for Black women, especially for me, because it happened in December. It took me being out of work for a week, being hospitalized, to realize, like, that job is not the most important thing. My emotional, my mental, my physical health is absolutely priority, because when I die, guess what? That job will be posted.
Yes.
By the time my obituary
Yes.
is printed, right?
Yes.
So make sure that I use the resources, hopefully that's provided by the institution that I work for, my employer, to make sure that I'm taking care of myself holistically and that I build a community of Black women, Black men, whoever, advocates, allies, to make sure that like I am taking care of myself, but also like there has to be spaces when like I feel uncomfortable that I can say it. Right. And I can share, and then something is going to be done there. I'm not going to be like penalized for being very transparent. And then for my community, other Black men, Black women, don't look at it as an opportunity to take my position because I'm like talking about it. Right. Like when I'm sharing, like be in community with me and not look at it like, oh, you just played yourself. You're about to get fired. You're about to not get any of the opportunities. And now I'm up next because that exists too.
Oh, we ran out of time because it's only supposed to be like a 30-40 minute show. We're going on 46 minutes. I want to bring in Silver too in a minute. You can go ahead and bring Silver in because you just brought up something that I look, this is my show. We're gonna talk about what we want to talk about. Y'all say hi to each other. Hey, y'all. All right, but look, real quick. You brought up something that's very, very important because I think we do this to ourselves a lot. Right. And you brought up this like, yeah, don't use this to try to slide in. And we have to be very careful. And I would say it starts with sort of Black folks first, because I think oftentimes we don't support each other in ways in which we should. Right, we get caught up into this system of this system of competition that we allow people to pin us against each other. Right, to say, look, don't worry about DJ. If you ain't gonna be ready, I'm gonna rise somebody else behind you, right? And how do we combat that to be like, no, this is my people? Because look, we always got to be sort of like these folks who are fighting for the same positions, and that is the problem that I see oftentimes, right? But I've seen people, Black women, not support Black women. I've seen Black men not support Black women. Black men not support Black men, and I find those that support system to be unacceptable. And so I'm going to throw this question to both of y'all. How can we call that out, right? Because it's happening, right? How can we call that out and become more supportive of each other in this space where we know it's hostile to all of us, right? More hostile to Black women, for sure, but it's hostile to all of us, right? So how do we not get caught in that web of thinking that we got to compete with each other?
Silver?
No, you go first. It's your segment anyway.
So I think it's like truly shifting from this individual, like what makes us Black and what makes us powerful is like community, right? But we allow competition to make us very individualistic, right? And the win is not about what benefits me. The win is about what benefits the community and the masses and the people that we serve, right? So if somebody is on my team and they want to dip and they want to do something bigger and greater, we support that instead of like talking about them, instead of like creating conditions where they can't be successful and where they can't thrive, right? Because everything is always so personal. Something is always taken from us. None of this is ours. Like none of this. This system was built to actually defeat the very, students we're trying to serve, right? And that's why I have a lot of respect for you. Like you were like, I worked in systems and structures that I just can't vibe with anymore. And I'm going to leave and I'm going to do the thing that I believe is right for Black and brown kids. And so like, we need more people like you. We need more systems and structures. But I also think it's like, just understanding that like somebody else's win is our win.
That's right.
and it can't just be for us.
That's right.
Yeah. I'll jump off of you talking about this pressure to have this individualism. And if we look at functions of white supremacy, individualism is one of those.
Yes.
Right? Like, so being very honest about the ways in which we as a people are still impacted by some internalized anti-Blackness in this white supremacy. Yeah. Right. Like, and so what does it look like to create institutions where we aren't just doing the work of knowing the great pedagogy, but there is a level of soul work that is necessary if we're going to do this properly, to disengage from, like, heal from the fact that we live in this anti-Black world and unlearn what we have learned from this anti-Black world. And how are we taking time to make sure we are doing that in our communal spaces that are our workspaces, so that we are not perpetuating those same systems saying that we are doing revolutionary work for Black people. Because it can't be a both and. I can't perpetuate and yet saying that I am doing what is revolutionary for Black students and Black families in their communities.
Y'all so dope. That's all I'm saying. Y'all are dope human beings. Like, I'm so hyped that y'all are doing the work. I appreciate y'all, and I hit y'all both up last minute. So y'all know, like, I love y'all for just being ready to go. But I'm gonna have y'all back because I think I don't want to just talk about this stuff, but I want to, I mentioned earlier, I want to have some solutions, and I want to hear from people who are actually out here doing the work. That's what this show is about. Like, people are actually out here doing the work, hearing from you all, trying to, because we have to, somebody put that in one of the comments, we have to become more of a community, right? This is activism. I see a teacher being a teacher is activism, right? Being a culturally responsive teacher who's pushing against this idea of anti-blackness is activism. And all the work we're in a higher ed, higher ed, administrative roles, school administrative role, or leadership roles in the schools. We all have a role in that, right? And I always ask this question: how much are we willing to sell our soul for organization? Are we willing to go against our values for organization? And at what point do we protect ourselves and also what we believe is right by our children and stand up for what's right for our children, regardless of the role, regardless of the position, regardless of the money that we're getting? And so I know you two are good people who are out here doing that, who are raising questions, who are pushing back. So I want to shout y'all out. Continue to do the work. I'm doing my work from this space. Y'all doing that work from within. I'm rooting for y'all all the time. I'm always rooting for y'all. We'll always root for y'all. Don't let nobody tell you different. And I'm going to let y'all leave with anything closing you want to say about any of the topics that we've discussed before we close out. And I'll start with Silver, then DJ.
Anything else I want to say? I think we set it up. Take care of yourself. Recognize sometimes self-care is overrated. And when you're at your lowest, you don't have the capacity to care for yourself. You need a community care. So talk to your teacher friends and make sure that they are well. Whatever educator friends in whatever space, make sure they are well. They shouldn't have to reach out to you because they might not have the ability to do so.
I would just say, like, this is like hard work, but it's also like heart work. But my last thing is that, like, always trust Black women.
True facts. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all being on the show. I'll have y'all back. Trust me, continue to do the good work. Y'all know where to find me. If y'all need me, I'll be out there processing whatever you need me to do. I got you. And you know I will, with my head on, because I'm doing what I want to do.
This is true. Go.
All right.
I can't wait.
All right, y'all. Appreciate everybody listening. Have a wonderful Saturday and go Lions. Peace.